Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere different. A time not of castles and plagues, but of mud, mosquitoes, and mines. We're going to step into the boots of a combat engineer in the Vietnam War. And I'll warn you right now, they don't fit comfortably. Forget the action-packed movies or the heroic posters. The reality is sweat, exhaustion, fear, and a kind of discomfort that clings to you the way jungle humidity clings to your skin. The truth is, you wouldn't last a day out here. So before we get into it, take a moment to get comfortable where you are now. Adjust your blanket, maybe dim the lights, let the background noise fade. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, feel free to subscribe, but only if you really like being here. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm always amazed at how many corners of the world people are tuning in from. Now imagine it's 1968. You've just arrived in Vietnam. The air is heavy, wet and alive with sounds you don't recognise. Cicadas screech, mosquitoes whine, distant helicopters thump overhead, and everything smells faintly of damp earth and burning fuel. You're a combat engineer, which means your job is to build, dig, clear, and sometimes blow things up. You're not here to sit back. You're here to sweat, to risk, and to survive one humid day at a time. You're in the jungle now, and it's about to show you why it doesn't care about your comfort. You open your eyes to the thick weight of air pressing down on you, and for a moment you can't tell if you're still dreaming or if you've just woken up inside a steam room someone forgot to turn off. Except this steam room has no tiles, no scented oils, and definitely no relaxing music. It's a canvas tent propped up by poles, sagging under the constant assault of humidity. The fabric above you is damp to the touch, dripping slowly in places where last night's rain managed to seep through. Your pillow, if you can even call it that, is a balled up uniform shirt that smells like mildew, sweat, and insect repellent. Though none of that really repels anything. You're sticky, itchy, and already sweating, even though the sun hasn't fully risen. Welcome to Vietnam. The first thing you hear isn't birds singing or an alarm clock. It's the jungle itself, alive with sounds that never shut up. Cicadas drone with a deafening pitch. Frogs croak from puddles that haven't dried since the last monsoon, and mosquitoes buzz near your ear with all the persistence of a tiny chainsaw. Somewhere in the distance, the thump of helicopter blades cuts through the humid morning air, reminding you that you're not here for a vacation. And right outside your tent, someone is already coughing, hacking up whatever mix of dust, smoke, and sickness has taken up residence in their lungs. That's your good morning soundtrack. Your body feels heavier than it should. The cot beneath you sags in the middle, its metal frame digging into your sides. Every joint aches from another night of tossing and turning, trying to find a position that doesn't make your spine scream. But the thing about sleeping in Vietnam is, you don't really sleep. You drift, half awake, half aware, twitching at every rustle of leaves outside, every crack of a twig that might be a rat, a monkey, or something worse. You tell yourself you're used to it by now, but you're not. No one is. Your blanket is damp, not from any spilled canteen, but because moisture just seeps into everything here. The jungle doesn't let you keep anything dry. Your socks are damp. Your boots are damp. The letter from home you tucked into your pack is damp. Even the air tastes damp, carrying with it the smell of rotting vegetation, burning diesel, and the faint chemical tang of bug spray. You inhale, and it feels like you've swallowed a warm sponge. Rolling onto your side doesn't make things better. The ground beneath your cot is mud, soft enough that one leg of the frame has sunk a little deeper than the others. You wobble when you shift, and for a second you imagine the whole thing collapsing, dumping you face first into the wet earth that already coats half your gear. A cockroach scurries along the edge of the canvas, its shiny shell catching the faint glow of morning. You consider swatting it, but what's the point? There are 100 more waiting for their shift to start. You close your eyes for a second, trying to trick yourself into thinking you might squeeze in a few more minutes of rest. But then the jungle reminds you it doesn't care. A mosquito finds the one patch of skin you didn't manage to cover, and its high-pitched whine in your ear is enough to jolt you into moving. You slap at it, miss, and end up smearing sweat across your cheek. Your hand comes away greasy, sticky, and smelling faintly of the repellent that clearly isn't working. That's the moment you know sleep is officially over. The heat is already climbing, though the sun is just barely crawling up over the horizon. The tent traps it like an oven, and you feel sweat beading on your forehead, rolling down your neck, pooling in places you'd rather not think about. You haven't even moved yet, and your uniform is already damp before you've managed to put it back on. You pull in a slow breath, hoping for something crisp or refreshing, but all you get is more thick air and the faint scent of last night's kerosene lamp mixed with mud and mildew. It's enough to make you gag a little, but you swallow it back. Breakfast hasn't even started, and you're already nauseous. Around you the camp begins to stir. Boots thud on wet ground. Someone unzips their tent flap, the rasp of the zipper sounding far too loud in the heavy morning air. A muttered curse drifts over from the next cot, where a guy is peeling his shirt off his sticky back, probably just as miserable as you. Another soldier groans as he sits up, the creak of metal springs echoing the collective ache of bodies that never got the rest they needed. Nobody wakes up refreshed here. You wake up because staying horizontal any longer feels worse. You swing your legs over the side of the cot, and your feet immediately find the floor. Not dry, not solid, mud. That's the permanent feature of this place. Mud on your boots, mud on your socks. Mud caked into the tread of your gear and the lines of your skin. You could wipe it off, but there's no point. It'll be back before you take 3 steps outside. The tent smells of it, mixed with sweat and the faint sour odour of unwashed clothes. Everything here smells like work and exhaustion, and you're not even out of bed yet. Reaching for your canteen, you realise it's lukewarm, even though it's sat untouched all night. You take a swig anyway, because you have to. The water tastes faintly of chlorine tablets, sharp and metallic, but at least it doesn't kill you immediately. Still, it doesn't feel refreshing. It feels heavy, coating your tongue, leaving behind a chemical aftertaste that lingers longer than you want. You set it back down, wipe your mouth with the back of your hand, and remind yourself you'll be sweating it out within minutes anyway. The sun is stronger now, pushing through the thin fabric of the tent, turning it into a glowing oven. You blink against the light, rub your eyes, and for the first time that morning, really register the buzzing in the air outside. It isn't just insects, it's machinery. Somewhere not far off, an engine rumbles, a low growl that mixes with the bird calls and frog croaks. Helicopters chop overhead again, closer this time, sending a pulse through the ground that rattles your cot frame. You glance toward the opening in your tent, and through the gap you catch sight of dust swirling in the air as rotor wash sweeps across the camp. Another day has started, whether you like it or not. You stand, stretch, and immediately regret it. Your back cracks, your shoulders ache, and the muscles in your legs feel like they've already done a day's work before you've lifted a tool. Sweat beads instantly at your temples, running down into your eyes. You wipe at it, smear more grime across your face, and wonder if there was ever a time in your life when you didn't feel sticky. Your uniform shirt hangs nearby, still damp from yesterday, smelling like the combined effort of a week's labour. You'll put it on anyway, because there's no other option. Outside, the sounds grow louder. Someone's swearing about leeches. Another guy is lighting a cigarette, the sulphur snap of the match briefly overpowering the wet, earthy smell of the camp. Smoke drifts past the tent flap, mixing with the diesel fumes of a truck that's already rumbling to life. You rub at your eyes again, and for a moment you wish you could shut it all out, sink back into the cot, and pretend you're somewhere else. But that isn't how this works. The jungle doesn't wait for you. Neither does the job. And the day, with all its sweat, noise, and work, has already begun. You step out of your cot and push the flap aside, and the first thing that greets you isn't fresh air or a sunrise worth looking at. It's the wall of humidity that smacks into your face, carrying with it the thick smell of mud, sweat, and something faintly sour that you've stopped trying to identify. Your temporary home looks less like a place to live, and more like a stubborn compromise between fabric, dirt, and desperation. It's a tent, technically, though the word tent usually implies some level of shelter. Here, it just means a thin canvas roof propped up on poles, sagging in the middle, patched in more places than you'd like to count, and constantly dripping from leaks you never seem to fix. The floor is nothing but wet ground, covered by wooden pallets and planks someone dragged together in a half-hearted attempt to stay above the mud. It doesn't work. The rain always wins. It seeps through the gaps, collects in shallow puddles, and turns every step into a slippery gamble. You place your boots down and feel the wood flex under your weight, soft from weeks of soaking. The mud below oozes upward with each step, leaving dark stains that never dry. Your socks are already damp, even though you haven't gone outside yet. That's just how it works here. Dry doesn't exist. Everything you own is either wet, on its way to being wet, or carrying the stale smell of having been wet too many times before. Around the edges of the tent, sandbags are stacked in uneven rows. They're supposed to give you some kind of protection, though protection feels like a generous word. Half of them are torn, spilling sand onto the ground, while others sag from being soaked so often they look more like soggy bread loaves than fortifications. You know they won't stop much if something serious hits, but they make you feel a little less exposed, and sometimes that's the only comfort you get. The inside of the tent is a clutter of gear, cots, boots, and half-empty duffel bags. Helmets hang on nails hammered into poles, each one streaked with dirt and sweat stains that never wash out. Rifles lean against the canvas walls, always close enough to grab, but never far enough to feel like they're not part of the furniture. Clothes are strung up on makeshift lines, flapping limply in the wet air, never drying, just shifting from soaked to damp and back again. The smell is permanent, a mix of mildew, smoke, and the unmistakable funk of too many men living too close together with no real chance to clean. You glance at the ceiling and spot another leak forming. the canvas sagging slightly under the weight of collected water. At some point, someone will poke it with a stick, and it will drain in a messy splash onto the floor. Until then, it just hangs there, taunting you. You know tonight it'll drip on your face just as you're about to fall asleep. That's the kind of comfort this place offers. The tent walls are never still. They ripple with every gust of air, every rotor wash from a helicopter overhead, every heavy truck rolling past. The sound is constant, canvas flapping against poles, cords creaking, and the faint rattle of gear knocking against each other. Privacy is non-existent. Every cough, every grunt, every muttered curse carries across the space, and you learn quickly to tune it out or go crazy. You share everything here. Air, space, sound, smell. It's a communal misery, and the walls are too thin to pretend otherwise. Outside, the ground is worse. Mud stretches in every direction, swallowing boots up to the ankles if you're not careful. Wooden walkways crisscross the camp, but most of them are warped, cracked, or missing boards entirely. Step wrong, and you're knee-deep in swampy sludge before breakfast. The smell of wet earth clings to everything, overpowering even the smoke from the burn pit, where trash and scraps are set on fire every morning. It's a smell you can't escape, a mix of rotting vegetation, damp clothing, and whatever the fire manages to half burn before the rain puts it out. The tent you call home is one of many in a row, all looking the same, sagging, leaking, surrounded by uneven lines of sandbags. Each one houses a dozen men, each one just as damp, cluttered, and miserable as yours. From a distance, they look like part of the landscape, blending into the green and brown of the jungle, except for the occasional flash of metal when the sun breaks through the clouds. Up close, they're just fabric stretched too thin, barely holding back the elements, and offering no comfort beyond the illusion of a roof. Rats dart between the sandbags, bold enough now that the morning has stirred up food wrappers and crumbs from last night. You hear the faint scuffle of their claws on the wood planks, the squeak as they fight over scraps, the thump of a boot as someone nearby tries to kick one away. They always come back. You can set traps, you can throw things, you can shout, but the rats always win. They're as permanent here as the mud. You crouch near your gear, rummaging through your pack for a clean shirt, though you know the word clean is just wishful thinking. Everything smells like sweat, even the things you haven't worn yet. You pull one out anyway, give it a half-hearted shake, and tug it over your head. The damp fabric sticks instantly to your skin, clinging to your shoulders and chest. It's like wrapping yourself in a wet rag, and you'll carry that sensation with you until nightfall. Above the tent, the sky's already shifting. The clouds hang heavy, swollen with more rain, and you know it won't be long before the next downpour. When it comes, it will hammer against the canvas roof, drown out every other sound, and turn the ground into a soup of mud and water. The tent will leak again, new puddles will form, and everything you own will be even wetter than before. You don't brace for it anymore. You just accept it, the way you accept the heat, the insects, and the constant noise. That's life here. Not comfort, not rest, just survival under fabric, sandbags, and a sky that never lets up. You sit back on your cot for a moment, elbows on your knees, staring at the muddy ground just past the tent flap. The day hasn't even properly started, and already your skin itches, your clothes cling, and your boots squelch with every step. You know you'll spend the next hours hauling, digging, building, and sweating until your body feels hollow. But right now, in this damp canvas shelter, with sandbags crumbling at the edges. You're reminded of the one truth that never changes here. This isn't home. It's never been home. It's just a place you exist in for as long as the jungle allows, and the jungle never allows for long. You crouch outside your tent now, boots sinking slightly into the mud as you look over what passes for breakfast. Forget the smell of bacon on a skillet or toast popping up from a clean toaster. Out here, the menu is already decided for you, sealed in dull green cans stacked inside a box labelled with stencilled black letters that look more like they belong on ammunition than food. These are your sea rations, and they're about as close to a meal as you're going to get. The box has been sitting in the damp air all night, and the cardboard is already soft at the edges, sagging like everything else in camp. Someone rips it open with a knife, and the contents spill out onto the wet planks. Small cans of meat, crackers, instant coffee packets, and the occasional lump of what the label optimistically calls fruit. You know better. The fruit cup inside that can tastes less like peaches and more like something that survived a chemical accident. You pick through the pile, hoping for something halfway decent, though hope doesn't get you far here. Maybe you'll get ham and lima beans, universally despised and often swapped like a curse. Maybe you'll luck into beef steak with potatoes, which, while barely recognisable, is at least less insulting to your stomach. Every can is stamped with blocky text, no pictures, no promises, just blunt descriptions of contents you'll regret later. You grab one at random, because really what difference does it make? The can is cold, slick with condensation, and you fumble with the tiny metal opener clipped to your dog tags. It's a simple tool, just a sharp hook that bites into the lid, but it takes effort. Your hands are already sweaty, your fingers slipping as you crank it around the edge, hearing the faint metallic screech as the lid peels back. The smell hits you before you see it, salty, oily, with a hint of something metallic underneath. Whatever's inside was cooked, sealed, and shipped months ago, maybe years. It hasn't improved with age. You scoop out a mouthful with the dull edge of a spoon. It slides more than it sits, a greasy clump of mystery meat and sauce that tastes like salt, fat, and the tin can itself. You chew slowly, jaw working harder than it should have to this early in the morning. There's no freshness here, no warmth, no comfort. Just processed calories meant to keep you moving. The texture sticks to your tongue, coats your teeth, and leaves behind a film that water won't wash away. You'll taste it all morning, whether you want to or not. Beside you, someone curses at their own unlucky draw. Ham and eggs chopped. The words sound harmless until you smell it, a sulphur-heavy stench that wafts through the damp air like a punishment. The guy grimaces, swallows anyway, because no one wastes food out here. You watch him force it down, his face twisted, and you know you'll be wearing that same look soon enough. Nobody enjoys breakfast. You endure it because there's no alternative. The crackers come next, hard rectangles sealed in waxy paper. You tear them open and bite down, and for a second you wonder if you've just chipped a tooth. They're dense, dry, and taste faintly of cardboard mixed with dust. They stick in your throat, impossible to swallow without water or coffee. You chew anyway, jaw aching, crumbs clinging to the corners of your mouth. The crackers aren't meant to taste good. They're just there to fill space in your stomach, a bland counterweight to the salty grease of the meat can. Then there's the coffee. A tiny brown packet of instant powder, folded neatly like it holds some great promise. You tear it open, dump the grains into your tin cup. Add water from your canteen, stir with a spoon, and watch as it dissolves into a murky black liquid that smells faintly of burnt rubber. The taste is worse than the smell. Bitter, sharp, like licking the bottom of a charred pan. The heat burns your tongue. The bitterness scrapes across your throat, but you drink it anyway. Not because you enjoy it, but because it forces your eyes open, kicks your body into gear, and gives you the illusion that you can keep going. It doesn't refresh you. It jolts you, like being slapped awake by something you paid for. Cigarettes come with ration packs too, 4 to a box. You light one, not because you want to, but because it's just what everyone does. The smoke curls into the damp morning air, mixing with diesel fumes, bug spray, and the ever-present smell of mud. You cough once, drag again, and for a brief moment the taste of grease and crackers fades behind the sharp sting of smoke. It's not better. It's just different. Out here, different is enough. Around you, the rest of the squad eats in silence, each man working through his own pile of cans and packets, spoons scraping against metal, muttered curses slipping out with every bite. Someone tries to make a joke about the food, but no one laughs. It's too early, too hot, too miserable for humour. Breakfast isn't social here, it's mechanical. Open the can, shovel it in, wash it down, and move on. By the time you finish, your stomach feels heavy, not satisfied. The food sits inside you like a lump of lead, weighing you down before you've even lifted a tool. The coffee buzzes in your veins, sharp and jittery, but it's fighting with the greasy mass in your gut, and the combination makes you queasy. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand, smear a bit of oil across your lip, and swallow hard to keep it down. This is how every day starts. Not with energy, not with comfort, but with a slow churn in your stomach and a bitter taste you can't shake. You toss the empty cans into the burn pit, where they clatter loudly against others, a pile of metal waste waiting to be set on fire. The smoke will rise later, acrid and heavy, carrying with it the faint smell of scorched food and paint. The jungle swallows the sound, but the smell lingers, clinging to your clothes, mixing with the grease already on your hands. You rub them on your pants, but the shine stays, a reminder that this food never really leaves you. Somewhere nearby, a bugle call echoes faintly, or maybe it's just the sound of another squad moving out. Either way, breakfast is over before it began. There's no lingering, no savouring, no sitting back with a second cup. You've got work to do, roads to clear, holes to dig, things to build. Your stomach protests, your head buzzes, your throat burns from coffee and smoke. But you stand anyway. That's the point of breakfast here. It doesn't comfort you. It doesn't fuel you. It just reminds you that you've survived the night, and now you have to survive the day. You stand now, stomach still heavy with the taste of tin cans and bitter coffee, and it's time to face the next ritual. Getting dressed out here isn't about style, it isn't about choice, and it definitely isn't about comfort. It's about survival in the loosest sense of the word. The pile of gear at the side of your cot isn't waiting for you like a neatly folded outfit. It's a heap of sweat-soaked fabric, stiff boots, straps and metal that feels more like a punishment than a uniform. You start with the fatigue shirt, the one hanging limp from the cord strung across the tent. It's still damp from yesterday, clinging to your hand as you pull it free. The smell rises instantly. A mix of mildew, sweat, and whatever insect repellent you last sprayed on yourself. It's a smell you've stopped noticing until it's pressed this close, and then it hits you in waves. You tug it over your head, and the fabric sticks instantly to your skin, cold in spots, clammy everywhere else. The collar scratches against your neck, already raw from days of chafing. There's no clean shirt. There hasn't been for weeks. There's just less dirty and completely soaked. Next come the trousers. They're heavy, thick, and stained in ways you don't bother to identify anymore. Mud at the knees, oil smears across the thighs, sweat soaked into the waistband. You step into them anyway, boots squelching against the damp fabric, pulling them up with a grunt. They don't fit right anymore, stretched and sagging from being worn too long without rest. The belt digs into your hips the moment you fasten it, the buckle already coated with rust from too many rainstorms. Then the boots. Always the boots. They sit near your cot, caked in mud that dried overnight into a brittle crust, now cracking as you pick them up. You shake them out first, not because you care about dirt, but because you never know what's crawled in during the night. More than one guy has jammed his foot into a boot, only to feel the sharp wriggle of a centipede or the squirm of a frog. You wrap the soles against the wooden planks, wait for anything unwanted to drop out, then slide your feet in. The leather is stiff, rough against your skin, and the dampness inside makes every step feel like you're already walking through a puddle. The laces are frayed, coated with grime, but you tighten them anyway, tugging until your ankles feel bound. Jungle boots aren't designed for comfort. They're designed to last just long enough to remind you that blisters can coexist with leeches. The socks underneath are already wet. They were wet when you pulled them on, wet when you went to sleep, and they'll be wet until the day you throw them away. Wet socks mean skin softening, peeling, and splitting between your toes. It means the constant itch and burn of what everyone just calls jungle rot. You can change them if you're lucky enough to have spares, but it won't matter. Within the hour, the sweat and the mud will soak them through again. You wiggle your toes, feel the squish, and accept it the way you accept the bugs and the heat. Out here, dry is a rumour. You shrug into your flak vest next, a bulky slab of canvas and metal plates that adds weight to your chest and shoulders. It's heavy, hotter than anything you've worn before, and about as breathable as a wet tarp. The straps dig into your collarbone, the edges rub against your arms, and every movement feels restricted. You tell yourself it might stop a piece of shrapnel, but in the back of your mind, you know it's not invincible. It's a burden you carry because leaving it behind feels worse. Your helmet hangs nearby, dull green with streaks of mud dried into the creases. The liner smells like sweat that never dried, a permanent musk baked into the fibres. You settle it onto your head, and the strap bites into your chin, leaving an indent you'll feel long after you take it off. The weight presses down immediately, a reminder with every tilt of your head. The jungle air already feels heavy. The helmet just seals the deal. Then come the web gear and pouches. Straps over shoulders, cinched tight around your chest and waist, loaded with canteens, ammo, grenades, and tools. Every pocket holds something important, but every ounce adds to the burden. You clip it all together, shifting the weight until it's bearable, though bearable doesn't mean comfortable. The straps rub raw against your shoulders, the buckles dig into your ribs, and the gear sways with every step, threatening to throw you off balance. At the side of your pack, you strap on the tools that define your job. The entrenching tool folded tight against the canvas, its metal edge already rusting from yesterday's rain. The blasting kit sealed as best as possible, but still smelling faintly of powder. Wire cutters, heavy and awkward, clanking against your hip as you move. Everything feels like too much, yet never enough. You're supposed to be ready for anything, and that means carrying everything. By the time you're dressed, your skin is slick with sweat. The shirt clings tighter, the vest presses down, the helmet traps the heat. You feel heavier than you did in bed, weighed down by layers of damp fabric and gear that pull at your shoulders with every breath. Your boots squelch with each step. Your belt pinches, and the straps of your pack cut into your back. You haven't even started working yet, and already you're exhausted. Around you, the rest of the squad is gearing up too. The same grunts, curses and groans echo across the tent as men wrestle with their own gear. One guy yanks at a stuck zipper, another bangs his boot against a post to shake out whatever crawled in overnight. Helmets clatter, buckles snap, metal tools clang against each other. It's a chorus of preparation, all of it done half awake, half grim, and with the knowledge that no matter how much you strap on, it won't really protect you from everything waiting out there. You tug at your straps one last time, shifting the weight so it feels less like it's crushing you, and you catch your reflection in the dull metal of your canteen. Sweat streaks your face, your eyes already tired, your skin shining with the sheen of humidity. You don't look ready. You don't feel ready. But you're dressed, and that's the only thing that matters here. Out in the jungle, there's no such thing as comfortable. There's just equipped, sweaty, and ready enough to keep moving until the next obstacle reminds you just how heavy all of this really is. You step outside, fully geared up, and almost instantly the jungle reminds you it doesn't care how much you're carrying. The weight of the vest and the helmet is one kind of burden, but the living things out here are another, and they don't stop. The moment your boots sink into the mud and you take that first step away from the tent, the buzzing, crawling army of insects closes in as if you've stepped into their breakfast line. Mosquitoes are first. They're everywhere, whining past your ears in high-pitched swarms, finding the smallest patch of exposed skin and sinking in before you can slap them away. You feel them land on your neck, your wrists, even through the thin fabric of your fatigues. The bug repellent you smeared on earlier stings your skin, leaves you smelling sharp and chemical, but it doesn't matter. The mosquitoes bite anyway, and they leave behind welts that itch until you scratch them raw. You slap one on your forearm, smear its body across your sleeve, and before you could even wipe it off, another takes its place. Flies follow next. Not the kind you swat lazily away back home, but thick-bodied jungle flies that hover near your face, dive for your eyes, and land on your lips if you don't keep them closed. They're drawn to sweat, and out here everyone is sweating. They crawl into your ears, buzz past your nose, settle onto the corners of your mouth, and no matter how many times you wave them away, they come back. You spit into the mud, shake your head, and try not to think about how many of them have already landed on your food or your canteen. Then there are the ants. They don't just march politely in lines along tree trunks. They swarm. Some nests are buried beneath the mud, invisible until you step in the wrong place, and suddenly your boots are crawling with dozens of tiny bodies. each one biting into your skin with sharp little jaws. You feel the sting through your socks, a burning sensation that spreads until you're stomping, shaking and cursing, trying to get them off. Other ants live in trees, and if you brush against the wrong branch, they rain down on you in clusters, biting and clinging to your clothes until you strip them off one by one. Out here, you don't walk past an anthill. You walk into a minefield with legs. But nothing matches the leeches. They're silent, slow, patient, and they never stop. Every puddle, every patch of damp grass, every creek you have to ford hides them. Thin, black, worm-like bodies that latch onto your skin without you even noticing at first. One moment you're trudging through the mud, the next you glance down and see a line of them wriggling up your boot, heading for the warmth of your leg. You peel one off, flick it away, and two more are already sucking at your ankle. You pull at them with your fingernails, feel the slippery tug as they resist, and when they finally come off, they leave behind a bleeding welt that doesn't stop for hours. Some men burn them with cigarettes, others sprinkle salt, but nothing keeps them from coming back. You stop thinking about preventing leeches. You just start living with them. Your skin is never still. It itches constantly. Some of it's bites, some of it's heat rash, some of it's just the permanent layer of damp that never dries. Your back prickles beneath the flak vest, your waist burns where the belt rubs, and your legs sting where the boots chafe against raw skin. You scratch at your arms with dirty fingernails, dig at the spots until they bleed, then stop because you know scratching only makes it worse. But you can't help it. The itch is everywhere, crawling over your body like invisible fingers that never let up. The worst part is knowing it isn't just outside. The bugs follow you into the tent, into your cot, into your clothes. Fleas live in the seams of your pants. Lice hide in your shirt collars, biting through the night until you wake scratching. Cockroaches scuttle across the planks at night, bold enough to crawl over your boots, sometimes even into them. You wake up to feel something moving across your chest, slap at it in the dark, and tell yourself it was just a beetle, not a spider, not a scorpion. You never really know. And the jungle itch, the thing everyone talks about, isn't just one thing. It's the sum of all of it. The bites, the rashes, the rot that comes from being damp too long. Your skin softens, peels, cracks open and gets infected. The itch becomes burn. The burn becomes pain. And before you know it, you're limping, wincing with every step, because something as simple as a blister has turned into something worse. You can rub ointment on it if you have some, smear on more bug repellent, wash with canteen water, but none of it really helps. The jungle always wins. You hear one of the guys nearby curse as he yanks up his pant leg, showing a line of leeches clinging stubbornly to his shin. He peels them off one by one, each leaving behind a bloody smear, and he spits onto the ground as if to curse the whole jungle in one motion. Another slaps at his neck, swears at the mosquito that's already swollen with blood. Everyone's skin looks the same here, dotted with bites, streaked with scratches, raw from sweat and friction. Nobody escapes it. Even the officers with their better boots and spare uniforms carry the same red welts, the same raw skin. Out here, rank doesn't keep the bugs away. The constant crawling becomes part of your awareness. You feel things that aren't there, phantom itches that keep you scratching even when your skin is clean. You slap at your arms, your legs, your neck, and sometimes you're not sure if you're actually killing something or just going mad from the sensation. You never get used to it. You just accept that your body is no longer yours. It belongs to the jungle, to the bugs, to the itch that keeps you awake when you're trying to sleep, and drives you half crazy when you're supposed to be focused. By midday, the bites swell, the sweat makes them sting, and the itch crawls deeper under your skin. You shift the weight of your gear, tug at your collar, shake out your sleeves, but nothing stops it. The bugs always find you, always burrow into the spaces you can't protect. You keep moving anyway, scratching, swatting, peeling leeches from your boots, because stopping only gives them more time to settle in. Out here, the crawling never ends. Your throat is dry now, cracked from the cigarettes, the bitter coffee, and the heat pressing down on you like a wet blanket. Sweat rolls off you in streams, soaking into your collar, dripping into your eyes, leaving behind a salty sting. You know you need water, but out here, water isn't the simple cure it's supposed to be. It's another gamble, another reminder that nothing in this place comes clean. You reach for the canteen strapped to your belt, the dull green metal container that's as much a part of you as your rifle. It rattles as you pull it free, heavy with what should be a comfort. But the moment you unscrew the cap and take a sip, the truth hits your tongue. It's not refreshing. It's tepid, lukewarm, and tastes faintly of chlorine tablets and metal. The purification tablets dissolve into something sharp and chemical, biting the back of your throat. Every swallow burns with bitterness, leaving an aftertaste that coats your mouth and makes you wonder if you're drinking water or just another form of punishment. Still, you drink it, because the alternative is worse. The streams that cut through the jungle look clear from a distance, glinting under the filtered sunlight like something from a postcard. But you know better. Upstream, someone has already bathed in it, washed their clothes in it, or dumped something into it that you don't want to imagine. The water hides leeches, worms and bacteria that can tear through your stomach faster than any bullet. One sip without purification, and you'll be doubled over by nightfall, sweating from more than just the heat, clutching your gut while your body empties itself faster than you can refill it. Dysentery doesn't sound as dramatic as a firefight, but it kills more quietly, stripping you down until you can't stand, can't work, can't fight. The tablets are supposed to save you. Tiny white pills that fizz weakly when you drop them into your canteen, turning clear water cloudy. You wait 30 minutes, sometimes less because you're too thirsty to care. Then drink anyway, hoping the chemical tang means the worst has been killed off. The problem is, the tablets don't change what's floating in the water. They don't change the taste of whatever swamp you scooped it from. You still get the earthy flavour of mud, the faint sting of algae, and the metallic tang of rust from the canteen itself. It goes down heavy, coats your stomach, and leaves you thirstier than before. Sometimes, when the heat is unbearable and your canteen is running low, you look at the puddles along the path and wonder. The water sits there, dark and stagnant, buzzing with mosquito larvae, coated with a thin film of oil from rotting leaves. You think about scooping it up. Think about how long it will take before you find another stream, and then you force yourself to move on. Desperation makes men drink from puddles. Desperation makes men sick. You try not to think about what you'll do when your canteen is empty, but out here, it's never far from your mind. The worst part is the heat makes you drink more than you should. Every step through the mud, every swing of your tool, every lift of your pack drains water from your body in rivulets of sweat. Your shirt clings to you, soaked through, salt streaks staining the fabric under your arms. You drink to replace it, but the more you drink, the faster your supply dwindles. There's no endless tap, no faucet you can refill at will. Every swallow is a calculation. Every sip measured against the hours ahead. You see it on the others too. Their lips cracked, their eyes sunken, their canteens sloshing less with each shake. Some ration carefully, sipping only when they can't bear it anymore. Others drink too fast, finishing early and leaving themselves dry by midday. The smart ones refill whenever they can, dropping more tablets, shaking the canteens, waiting impatiently for the fizz to fade. But even the smart ones end up sick sometimes. The tablets don't stop everything. Parasites still slip through. Worms find their way in. Malaria isn't the only disease waiting in the water. At night, when the air cools only slightly, the thirst lingers. You lie on your cot, sweat soaking the blanket beneath you, mouth dry no matter how many swigs you took before bed. The canteen sits next to you, half empty, and you fight the urge to drink the rest, knowing tomorrow will be worse. You listen to the jungle outside, the frogs croaking in the puddles, the mosquitoes breeding in the water you can't drink, and the rain hammering down on the roof of the tent. It's all water, endless water, and none of it safe. And in the back of your mind, you know the irony. You're surrounded by it, drowning in humidity, soaked by rain, slogging through mud, and still your body cries out for more. You're thirsty in the middle of a flood. You're parched in a land where the sky dumps gallons every night. It's not the lack of water that gets you. It's the wrong kind of water. The kind that carries sickness in every drop. The kind that teases you with the promise of relief before gutting you from the inside out. So you take another sip from the canteen, grimace at the chemical taste, and swallow anyway. Because out here, water doesn't refresh, it taunts. And you drink it not because you want to, but because not drinking it is worse. You put the canteen back on your belt, the taste of chlorine tablets still clinging to your mouth, and it's impossible not to think about how badly you need to wash. Your skin feels sticky, coated in layers of sweat, bug repellent, and whatever mud splashed onto you yesterday that never quite came off. Your uniform is stiff in spots, soaked in others, and every movement grinds grit against your body. You dream of a shower, but out here, hygiene is just another cruel joke. There are showers in camp, technically. Not the tiled kind, not even the communal stalls you might imagine. Out here, it's a row of oil drums propped up on scaffolding, filled with rainwater or hauled in by truck when someone remembers. A pipe runs down from each drum with a simple spigot at the end. You stand underneath, twist the handle, and wait for the lukewarm trickle to hit your shoulders. If the drum's been sitting in the sun all day, the water scalds at first, then cools to something that feels closer to swamp runoff. If the drum's empty, you get nothing at all but the hiss of air and the mocking squeak of the handle. When there's water, it doesn't last long. A line of men waits behind you, and every one of them is just as filthy, just as desperate. You step under the spigot, splash what you can across your chest, your face, your arms, scrubbing with hands that haven't been clean in weeks. Soap is rare, a small bar tucked into a pack and shaved down to a sliver. You rub it between your palms, try to lather, but the water washes it away before it can do anything. You work fast, because you know the pressure will die any second. the drum running dry as someone else pounds on the metal above in frustration. And then there's the smell. It never leaves. No matter how many times you scrub, the stink of mildew and sweat clings to you. Your clothes are already fouled before you put them back on. You step out of the shower, skin slick with water, only to pull on a uniform that smells like it's been buried in wet leaves for a week. The clean feeling lasts all of 5 minutes, gone the moment the fabric clings to your back again. You walk out sweating, scratching, and wondering why you bothered. Most of the time, you don't get a shower at all. You get a bucket. Someone hauls water from a barrel, sloshes it into a dented pail, and sets it down in the mud. You crouch over it with a rag, splash yourself in pieces, wiping away the worst of the grime while the bugs bite at your legs. You shave in the dark with a dull razor, a tiny mirror propped against a tent pole, nicking your chin because your hands shake from exhaustion. The cuts sting, the sweat burns them, and you know they'll be red and raw by morning. But regulation says you keep your face clean, so you scrape at it until the stubble's gone, even if the skin underneath looks worse. Your feet are the real battle. Every day they sit in wet socks, in boots that never dry, soaking in sweat and mud until the skin softens and peels. You take them off at night, peel the socks away like strips of wet paper, and stare at the white, wrinkled flesh underneath. Your toes are raw, your heels cracked, your soles dotted with blisters. The corpseman tells you to change socks often to keep your feet dry. You laugh at the word dry. You stuff on a new pair if you have them, but by midday they'll be soaked through again, squishing with every step, feeding the slow rot that works its way into the cracks of your skin. Jungle rot isn't fast, it's patient. It eats at you slowly, turns your feet into open sores, leaves you hobbling long before you can admit you need help. Even the small things become impossible. You wash your hands in your canteen, then wipe them on pants that are already filthy. You try to clean your gear, but the mud is permanent, staining everything until it all blends into the same shade of brown. Your helmet liner smells like a gym locker left in the sun. Your flak vest reeks of sweat and mildew. Your rifle grip is slick with grease and dirt no matter how often you wipe it. Everything feels damp to the touch, always, as if the air itself soaks into the fabric and refuses to leave. You think about brushing your teeth, but even that's an ordeal. The water tastes like tablets, the brush bristles are bent from being stuffed into a pouch, and the paste runs out quickly. Some men chew on twigs, others just swish with water and spit into the mud. The smell of bad breath hangs around camp like another layer of smoke, and no one bothers to comment. Everyone's mouth tastes like metal, cigarettes, and rations. No one's is better. At night, the grime feels worse. You lie on the cot, your skin sticky, your hair matted with sweat, your body itching from bites you can't scratch in your sleep. The canvas above you drips, adding more dampness to what you already carry. You shift, turn, kick at the blanket, but nothing feels clean. Your body never cools down, never feels light, never gives you the illusion of being fresh again. You wake in the dark, scratch at your arms, wipe your face, and realise you smell the same as the tent, the same as everyone else. Out here, hygiene isn't about being clean. It's about managing how dirty you get before it breaks you. The jungle doesn't just fight you with bullets or traps. It fights you with sweat, with mud, with the slow, grinding misery of a body that never gets relief. Showers with buckets, razors in the dark, and skin that peels from the damp. It all blends together into a single truth. You can wash, you can scrape, you can scrub until you bleed, but you'll never feel clean. Not here. Not with the air already wrapping you in another layer of filth the moment you step outside. You step out past the rows of sagging tents, boots sinking again into the mud, and whatever you thought was uncomfortable about the night or the morning gets replaced instantly by the weight of the job itself. You're a combat engineer, and that means every day is a gamble played against the ground beneath your feet. Roads, trails, bridges, clearings. It's all your responsibility. And every patch of earth might be hiding something that can end you in half a second. The squad moves out in a line, shovels and picks strapped beside rifles, packs rattling with blasting caps and wire cutters. The rain from the night before has softened the dirt into sludge, and every step leaves behind a print that fills quickly with murky water. The air is heavy, the heat pressing against you like a furnace, and you already feel the sweat pooling under your flak vest. The jungle closes in on both sides, thick with vines and bamboo that bend but never break, choking the path until you hack it open one swing at a time. The task sounds simple when someone explains it in a briefing. Clear the road, widen the trail, make it passable for vehicles and patrols. On paper, it's digging ditches, cutting back brush, laying planks over the worst of the mud. But you know better. Every swing of a machete, every step onto bare ground, every shove of a shovel is a question with no guarantee of the answer you want. The Viet Cong set traps everywhere, mines buried shallow, wires strung low, bamboo stakes hidden under leaves. Your job is to find them before they find you, and there's no science to it. Just eyes, hands, nerves, and luck. You crouch, brush away a patch of dirt with the flat of your palm, and spot the faint glint of wire half buried beneath the mud. It stretches across the trail, thin enough to miss if you weren't looking for it, taut enough to trigger whatever waits at the other end. You wave the squad back, sweat dripping into your eyes, and ease forward with cutters. One wrong move, one slip of the hand, and the air will fill with shrapnel. You hold your breath, clamp down, and snap the wire clean. The tension vanishes, the line falls limp into the mud, and only then do you breathe again. That's one. There will be more. Not everything is so obvious. Some traps wait beneath the dirt. Mines pressed into the soil until the ground looks no different from anywhere else. You prod with a stick, careful, deliberate, moving inch by inch. Sometimes you feel the give of a hidden plate, the wrong kind of resistance under the mud. That's when the sweat runs cold down your back, when every muscle locks tight. You mark it, call it out, and the squad detours. But sometimes you don't find it. Sometimes the mine finds you. The ground erupts, the blast tearing the air apart, and the silence that follows is worse than the noise. You've seen men thrown into the trees, boots left behind in craters, helmets spinning away like toys. The ground isn't solid here, it's waiting, always waiting. Booby traps don't stop at the dirt. They hang from the trees, disguised among vines and branches. Grenades rigged with tripwires, bamboo whips studded with nails, pits lined with sharpened stakes soaked in filth to guarantee infection. You walk through the brush, machete cutting ahead, and you never know if the next branch hides a wire, if the next step covers a pit. Every sense is on edge, eyes darting, ears straining, heart thudding loud enough to drown out the cicadas. You sweat and you scratch and you curse. But you keep moving, because stopping means you're still standing in the kill zone. The work is endless. When you're not clearing, you're building. Digging ditches for drainage, laying sandbags for checkpoints, hammering stakes into the mud for makeshift bridges. The tools weigh almost as much as your rifle, and using them under the sun is like punishing your own body for existing. You swing the pick, drive it into the soil, lift the shovel, and the mud sticks, heavy and stubborn. Your arms ache, your back screams, and your palms blister under the constant friction. You wipe your face with your sleeve, smear dirt and sweat together, and keep swinging. Because if you don't, the trucks won't move, the patrols won't pass, and someone else will be the one stuck on this trail tomorrow. And the jungle doesn't help. It reclaims everything you build as fast as you make it. You clear a road, cut back the brush, and by the next week it's grown back, thicker and stronger. The mud fills in the ditches, the rain washes away the planks, the vines coil back over the paths. You're fighting a war against the earth itself, and the earth is winning. Sometimes, when you're bent over in the mud, hacking at a root or prying a rock loose, you forget for just a second. You forget that the ground might be hiding something. You swing the shovel hard, drive it deep, and then you feel it. An unnatural clank. A hollow thunk. Your stomach drops, your hands freeze, and the squad goes quiet behind you. You ease back, set the tool aside, and brush at the soil with trembling fingers. Most of the time, it's just a rock. Sometimes it's not. That's the gamble. Every swing is a roll of the dice, and you don't get to choose the odds. You see the toll it takes on the others too. The way they move slower by midday, shoulders slumped under the weight of gear and fear. The way their eyes flick constantly to the ground, the trees, the shadows, the silence when a trap goes off, the sharp curse when someone finds another wire, the muttered prayers when they don't. The work breaks bodies, but the waiting breaks minds. You're not just digging roads, you're digging in places where someone else has already planned your death. And you never know how close you are until you're standing in it. By the time the sun dips lower, you're coated in sweat and grime, your hands blistered, your back bent. You've cleared a stretch of trail, widened a patch of road, maybe set charges to blast a fallen tree out of the way. The ground looks passable, the path looks open, but you know it won't last. By tomorrow, the mud will swallow it again, the jungle will creep back, and the traps will return. You shoulder your tools, wipe the dirt from your face, and trudge back toward camp. Every step another reminder that the work never ends. Out here, the ground isn't just where you stand. It's the enemy you can never stop fighting. By the time you've hacked through vines, dragged your shovel across another stretch of mud, and dodged the quiet threats hidden in the ground, the sun has started to slip lower, and the squad begins the next part of the daily grind. It's never really over, but there's one more task before night swallows the jungle, and it's as old as war itself. You dig in. The order is simple. Make a hole, make it fast, and make it deep enough to convince yourself you're not exposed. It sounds easy, but your body is already wrecked from hauling gear. Your hands raw from swinging a pick all day. Your shoulders burning under the straps of a pack that still hasn't lightened. You drop the load anyway, unstrap the entrenching tool from its canvas carrier, and snap it open with a metallic click. It's just a short-handled shovel, heavy steel with a folding hinge, but it feels like lifting an anchor after the hours you've already put in. You jab it into the ground, and the mud fights back. The earth here isn't soil you can toss aside in neat piles. It's clumps of clay, roots thick as your wrist, rocks buried just beneath the surface. Every swing sticks, every pull strains, and every scoop adds just another smear of muck across your arms. Sweat pours down your face, stings your eyes, drips from your chin into the hole you're making. You wipe it away, smear mud into your skin, and keep digging. There's no choice. The ground gives slowly, inches at a time, until you've scraped out a depression just big enough to crouch in. You keep going, because the corpsman said shallow holes don't count, and the sergeant said anything less than chest deep means you're volunteering to be a target. The shovel bites into another root, the jolt running up your wrists, and you curse under your breath as you pry it free. The jungle resists you every step of the way. Even the dirt fights. When the hole is deep enough to call it a foxhole, you climb in to test it, crouched low with your rifle resting against the lip. It doesn't feel safe. The walls close in, damp and sticky, seeping water that turns the bottom into a puddle. Mosquitoes buzz above it instantly, sensing the stagnant pool. The mud clings to your boots, sucks at them when you shift, and soon your legs are coated again in a slick film of filth. You scratch at your ankles, slap at another mosquito, and realise that in trying to find shelter, you've just built yourself a wet coffin you'll have to sit in until morning. Beside you, another man digs his own, the sound of metal striking dirt echoing in rhythm, grunts cutting through the drone of insects. The line takes shape slowly, uneven pits staggered along the perimeter, each one a personal trench, where a soldier crouches and pretends the earth is enough to shield him. You glance left, see helmets bobbing above the ground, sweat-slick faces smeared with grime. You glance right, watch another man slump into his hole, chest heaving, shovel dropped at his side. Nobody looks proud of the work. They just look resigned. Sometimes the holes connect, long trenches carved by endless hands, sandbags stacked at the top in uneven walls. They're supposed to look like fortifications, but in the rain they sag, the bags splitting open, the sand spilling down into the muck. You duck behind them anyway, pressing your back to damp cloth that smells like mildew, feeling the water seep through into your shirt. If it holds, it holds. If it doesn't, you won't be around to complain. The idea of protection is mostly mental. A foxhole won't stop artillery, won't block mortars, won't shield you from the air itself ripping open. At best, it keeps you out of sight, keeps the bullets from finding your chest as easily. At worst, it gives you just enough space to curl up and hope. You sit inside yours, knees drawn tight, rifle across your lap, and listen to the jungle shift as night creeps in. The cicadas scream louder, the frogs join in, the air buzzes with life that doesn't care whether you're in a hole or out of it. Your body aches, your hands blister from the shovel, your back screams from bending, your legs throb from squatting in mud. You shift positions, press your shoulder against the slick walls, and feel the earth crumble just enough to remind you how temporary this is. You scoop at the mud with your bare hands, toss it up onto the rim, and wipe your fingers on your pants. They're already filthy, already soaked, already no better than the hole itself. The sergeant walks the line, checking the work, muttering at anyone who didn't dig deep enough. He points out sagging walls, shallow pits, and men too tired to argue. You dig a little more, even though your arms feel like they'll fall off, because it's easier than listening to him bark. And besides, when the sun goes down and the noise of the jungle blends with the darker noise of war, you'll want every extra inch of dirt between you and whatever's coming. You settle back into your hole as the light fades, bugs already finding their way down into the damp bottom with you. Ants crawl across your hands, mosquitoes hover above your ears, and you scratch again, knowing the itch won't stop until morning. You shift your weight, boots squelching in the muck, and glance up at the sliver of sky above. It looks the same as it did yesterday, the same as it will tomorrow. A pale reminder that somewhere beyond the canopy, beyond the humidity, there are places where people sleep in beds without digging them first, but you're not there. You're here, in the mud, crouched in a hole you carved with your own blistered hands, pretending the dirt is enough. Pretending it will hold back the fire if it comes. Pretending this is more than just another patch of earth that will fill back in with rain the moment you leave. The sun is up now, higher than it was when you were bent over a shovel, and the jungle changes with it. The damp coolness of early morning vanishes fast, replaced by a heavy, burning heat that doesn't just sit on your skin, but presses into you, wrapping your whole body in something you can't escape. The canopy offers shade in patches, but the air underneath is no relief. It's hotter in here, thicker, the humidity building until every breath feels like you're sucking steam out of a kettle. Your uniform is already soaked through. Sweat rolls off your forehead in steady streams, drips down your nose, burns your eyes until you blink against the sting. It runs into your collar, down your spine, pooling at your waistband. Your shirt clings to your chest like wet paper, the fabric rubbing against your nipples until they're raw, while the vest over it traps the heat like a furnace pressed to your chest. You shift the straps, tug at the collar, anything to give yourself air, but nothing changes. The sweat keeps pouring, the heat keeps building, and every movement makes it worse. The boots are heavier now, filled with sweat and damp from the mud. Every step squishes, the socks inside softening until the skin beneath starts to peel. You feel the blisters building, the skin shifting with each stride, and you know by the end of the day your feet will be as raw as your shoulders. You take another sip from the canteen, grimace at the chemical tang, and realise it doesn't help. The water doesn't cool you. It just slides down, hot as the air itself, leaving your mouth just as dry as before. Your body slows without you realising. The shovel that felt heavy in the morning feels twice as heavy now. Each swing of the pick drags your arms down like weights are tied to them. Your back curves, your knees buckle, and sweat drips from your elbows into the dirt. You stop for a second, lean on the handle, chest heaving, heart pounding so hard it feels like it's rattling your ribcage. The jungle doesn't stop though. The bugs still swarm your face, the sun still beats on your helmet, and someone behind you yells to keep moving. You grip the tool again, force your body to keep going, and hope you don't collapse. Heat stroke isn't a word anyone says out loud, but you feel it creeping in. The dizziness, the blur at the edges of your vision, the way your hands shake when you reach for your canteen. Your skin prickles, not with bites this time, but with the strange heat that feels like fire under your arms and across your back. Your stomach churns, flips against the heavy lump of breakfast still sitting there, and you wonder if you'll vomit into the mud before you even finish the trench. You keep working because everyone else keeps working, but the fear sits in the back of your skull. whispering that the next swing might be the one that knocks you flat. You glance at the others, and you see the same misery painted across their faces. Helmets tilted low, eyes squinting against the glare, mouths open as they pant like dogs. Shirts stained dark with sweat, darker at the chest and armpits, streaks of salt drying white across the fabric. Some men strip off their shirts for relief, only to burn their backs under the sun and invite the swarms of mosquitoes to feast. Others keep them on, soaked and heavy, clinging like another layer of punishment. Everyone is suffering. No one is immune. The air shimmers in the distance, heat rising off the dirt road you've cleared, turning it into a wavering mirage that looks like water but isn't. Trucks pass sometimes, rumbling along the path, kicking up dust that mixes with sweat on your face until it cakes in streaks. You taste grit in your mouth, swallow mud with every gulp of water, and wipe at your lips with the back of your hand. The dust sticks to your skin, turns your sweat into paste, and you look down to see your arms streaked in brown like you've been dipped in clay. When you pause too long, the sergeant calls out, voice sharp, cutting through the heat like another slap. You put your head down, lift the tool, and keep going, even though your arms feel like they'll fall off. Every swing is slower, every scoop shallower, but you keep moving dirt, because stopping isn't an option. Stopping means falling behind, and falling behind means being the weak link. Out here, weakness isn't tolerated. Out here, weakness gets noticed. By midday, the heat is at its worst. The sun sits overhead like a torch, the air pressing down like a blanket you can't throw off. Your helmet traps the heat, your scalp itching with sweat until it runs down the sides of your face. You tip it back for a second, just to breathe, but the glare blinds you instantly, the light stabbing into your eyes until you squint them shut. You settle the helmet again, pull it low, and let the sweat run into your eyes instead. You can't win against the sun. You can only endure it. Some men faint. You've seen it before. The slow sway as they work. The sudden collapse into the mud. The corpsman drags them into the shade, dumps canteen water over their heads, forces them to drink even when they gag. Their faces flush red, their lips crack, their eyes roll back as the heat eats at them. Most recover, slowly, shakily, and stumble back into the line. Some don't. Out here the sun kills as easily as bullets, and no amount of digging saves you when your body decides it's done. The hours crawl, slower than anything you've ever felt, the sun marking time with each drop of sweat sliding down your face. You can't tell how long you've been working anymore. Minutes blur into hours, swings blur into drags, the rhythm of labour beating against your skull until it's the only thing you hear. You wipe your forehead, wipe your neck, wipe your chest, but the sweat keeps coming. You don't dry off. You don't stop. You just keep moving, keep breathing, keep shoveling, until the thought of lying down in the mud doesn't sound like surrender anymore but relief. But you don't lie down. You don't stop. You keep going, because the sun won't. The heat never lets up, and the sweat keeps dripping, but you keep working because of what's strapped to your body and rattling inside your pack. These are the tools of your trade, the things that mark you as an engineer, not just another rifleman in the line. You don't carry them because you want to. You carry them because you have to. And every single one of them feels like both a burden and a threat. The first is always the shovel. Not a clean, long-handled shovel like someone keeps in a garage back home, but the entrenching tool clipped tight to your web gear. Folded, it looks like an awkward metal square with a hinge, heavy for its size, sharp on one edge where it doubles as a crude axe. Unfolded, it becomes a short-handled shovel, the kind that forces you to stoop low and strain your back with every scoop. You stab it into mud, into clay, into dirt filled with roots that resist until you're grunting with each pull. The handle vibrates in your palm when you hit a rock. The blade dulls quickly from constant abuse, and the hinge pin always threatens to loosen until it collapses mid-swing. Still you carry it, because without it you can't dig the foxhole, you can't clear the trench, you can't move the earth. That never seems to stop getting in the way. It's as much a part of you as your rifle, and just as unforgiving. Then there's the machete. Heavy, wide-bladed, sheathed on your side. The edge is chipped from hacking at bamboo, dulled from chopping through vines thicker than your wrist. Every swing jars your shoulder, rattles your elbow, and sends splinters of green wood flying into your face. The handle grows slick with sweat. The blade sticks in stubborn roots, and you curse every time you have to wrench it free. But without it, there's no moving forward. The jungle doesn't open paths on its own. It takes muscle, steel, and endless swings until your arm feels like it's not connected anymore. Wire cutters hang from your belt too, their heavy jaws clanking against your thigh with every step. They're for more than barbed wire. Out here, they're for the thin tripwires strung across trails, invisible until they catch the corner of your eye. You kneel, hands trembling, sweat dripping into your vision, and slide the cutters into place. One wrong move, one slip, and the grenade or mine attached to the other end does the rest. The sound of the blade shearing through that taut wire is a sound you never forget. A dull snap, followed by silence, followed by the long exhale of men who didn't realise they'd been holding their breath. And then there are the explosives. The blasting kit sits in your pack, padded with whatever cloth you've stuffed around it, though it never feels secure enough. Charges of C4, sticks of TNT, blasting caps tucked carefully into tin containers. You can smell them before you even open the pouch. That sharp chemical tang that cuts through the sweat and mud. They're the tools for when digging and hacking aren't enough. For when a tree blocks a road, or a boulder needs moving, or a bridge has to come down. But they're also a reminder that every step you take is accompanied by the possibility of carrying your own ending on your back. You work with them carefully, always carefully, setting caps with hands that shake, pressing charges into mud while sweat drips from your nose. You run the wire, spool it out slow, fingers sticky with grime, until you're far enough back to crouch and wait. The blasting machine sits on the ground, heavy, boxy, with a crank handle at the top. You grip it, breathe, and listen to the sergeant's call. Then you crank, feel the resistance, hear the whine, and wait for the dull thump that shakes the ground. Sometimes it's a tree splitting in two, collapsing with a crash that sends birds screaming into the sky. Sometimes it's a bridge collapsing into water, the splash echoing through the valley. And sometimes it's too close, too sharp. Dirt raining down on your helmet as you wonder if you said it wrong, if today was the day your own charge turned on you. The sound of things going wrong is different. A blasting cap that pops before you're ready, sharp enough to deafen your ears. A charge that doesn't go off, leaving you to crawl back through the mud, hands trembling as you dig it up again, hoping it won't decide to fire the moment you touch it. A wire that frays, a fuse that burns too fast, a tool that slips from your hand and lands just wrong. Every sound out here has meaning, and you learn to listen the way you never did before. The snap of wire, the click of metal, the dull scrape of something shifting beneath your shovel. Any of them could be the sound of things about to go wrong. You feel it in your body too. The weight of all of it strapped to you, pulling at your shoulders, cutting into your waist. The shovel clanking against your hip, the machete bumping your thigh, the cutters rattling with every step, the blasting kit heavier than anything else, dragging you down until your legs ache with every mile. You don't just carry tools. You carry reminders that your job is never finished, that every patch of dirt or jungle you pass through will demand more from you than you have to give. And at the end of the day, when you set it all down, when you unclip the shovel and drop the cutters and ease the blasting kit onto the ground, you feel the weight lift from your body, but not from your head. Because tomorrow you'll pick them up again. Tomorrow you'll dig, you'll hack, you'll cut wires, you'll set charges. Tomorrow you'll roll the dice on the sound of things that can go wrong, and you'll listen hard, hoping the ground stays quiet long enough for you to keep moving. The tools hang heavy at your side, but carrying them is the easy part. It's when you're told to use them that the knot forms in your stomach, because obstacles in Vietnam aren't just logs or vines. Out here, every barrier is a dare. Barbed wire, bamboo, tripwires hidden where the ground looks innocent. All of them waiting for you to touch the wrong piece and find out too late what was really tied to it. Clearing them isn't just work. It's a gamble you keep playing, one cut at a time. Barbed wire is the most familiar, but that doesn't make it forgiving. The rolls are strung low, coiled in thick bundles, wrapped across trails or stretched tight in front of positions. You kneel with cutters in your hands, sweat dripping down your back, and slide the jaws into place. The wire is rusty, wet, sharp enough to tear your skin if you slip. The cutters bite down, there's the dull crunch of steel giving way, and for a moment you hold your breath, waiting for the wrong sound. Sometimes the wire is just wire. Sometimes it's tied to something else. A grenade, a trip flare, a mine. You can't always tell until you cut, and by then it's too late. So you cut slowly, carefully, snapping piece by piece until the path clears, hands trembling even as you work like you've done this 100 times before. Because you have. Then there are the bamboo stakes. Punji pits, they call them. Holes dug into the ground, lined with sharpened bamboo spikes, often smeared with rot or excrement to guarantee infection if you're unlucky enough to fall in. They hide them under leaves, under grass, under thin mats of woven brush that look like solid ground. You probe with your stick, press down on the surface, and sometimes it collapses, revealing the jagged spears waiting underneath. You kneel, pull the brush aside, and see the glistening points, still damp from the rain, angled upward like teeth. Clearing them means filling the hole, dragging logs and dirt to cover it, marking it so no one stumbles in. But while you're bent over, mud soaking your knees, you can't stop your mind from picturing what it would feel like to fall in, to have those spikes drive through your thighs, your stomach, your chest. The thought is enough to make your legs shake as you pile dirt on top, pretending the image won't follow you when you close your eyes tonight. Some obstacles are even cruder, but no less dangerous. Spiked boards hidden in the mud, sharpened sticks driven into paths at ankle height, bamboo whips strung back with vines so they spring forward when released. You walk the trail with your eyes darting to the ground, the trees, the shadows. Every branch is suspicious. Every patch of leaves a trap waiting to be triggered. You reach out with your machete, prod at the undergrowth, and sometimes the whip snaps forward harmlessly, released by your blade instead of your body. The sound echoes through the jungle, sharp and sudden, and every man freezes for a second, waiting for the follow-up blast that sometimes comes with it. When it doesn't, you exhale, shift your grip, and move on to the next. The worst are the ones you can't see until it's almost too late. A strand of wire across the trail, chest height, invisible until the sun glints just right off it. A pit disguised so perfectly you don't realise it's hollow until your boot sinks an inch too far. A can rigged with a grenade, sitting where a curious hand might reach. You learn to stop asking, "Is it safe?" because the answer is always the same. No, it's not. Nothing here is safe. You just decide which danger you can live with and which you can't. The work is slow. Clearing means crawling sometimes, belly in the mud, fingers brushing through leaves as you search for the wrong texture, the wrong shape. You feel your heart hammering with every sweep, every pull of a vine, every snip of a cutter. The jungle hums around you, indifferent, and the sweat drips from your nose into the dirt until you're half blind, wiping your sleeve across your eyes every few seconds. You want to move faster, to be done, to stand up and breathe again? But speed is the enemy. Speed gets men killed. So you crawl, and you cut, and you clear inch by inch, always asking yourself the same question. Did you miss something? Behind you the rest of the squad waits, rifles up, eyes scanning the trees. They depend on you, the one with the cutters, the one with the machete, the one crawling through the dirt so they don't set off whatever's hidden there. You feel their weight pressing on you almost as heavy as your gear. One mistake, and it's not just you who pays, it's them too. The silence behind you is thick, the kind that makes the buzz of insects sound louder, the kind that makes every click of your tool feel like it echoes through the whole jungle. Sometimes you set charges to clear obstacles faster. A bundle of C4 tucked against a log, a fuse lit with shaking hands, the wire spooled out as you back away. You hunker down, heart pounding, and wait for the dull crump of the blast, the wave of heat, the shower of dirt. When it works, the path clears in one violent instant. When it doesn't, when the fuse sputters or the charge fails, you're the one who has to crawl back in and check it. You pray every second you don't hear the delayed thump when your face is just inches away. By the end of a day clearing obstacles, your hands are cut from barbs, your arms streaked with scratches, your clothes torn by bamboo splinters. Your body is raw, your nerves stretched thin, your mind caught in the loop of every near miss. You pack your tools again, clip the cutters to your belt, sheath the machete, sling the blasting kit across your back, and try to shake the feeling that the jungle is laughing at you. Because no matter how much you clear, no matter how carefully you cut and crawl and sweat, tomorrow there will be more. More wires, more stakes, more pits hidden under the same leaves you thought you trusted. And still you'll go back in, crouching low, whispering the same words you always do when someone asks if the path ahead is safe. You shrug, you spit in the mud, and you mutter the only truth there is out here. Safe isn't part of the job. The jungle is never quiet. Even when no one's firing, even when the road ahead looks clear, even when you're sitting in a foxhole staring at nothing, The noise presses down on you like the heat. It's a soundtrack you can't turn off. A constant reminder that this place doesn't care if you rest. And once you've been here long enough, silence itself becomes something suspicious. The loudest thing is always the helicopters. You hear them before you see them. A deep chopping that rattles through your chest. A mechanical heartbeat rolling across the sky. Sometimes it's distant. A low thrum on the horizon. A reminder that supplies or reinforcements are moving somewhere out of sight. Sometimes it's so close that the ground itself shakes. Dust and leaves swirling into your eyes as the rotor wash tears across the camp. The noise is deafening, a hammer that drowns out every other sound until you feel like your skull itself is vibrating. You tilt your head against it, grit your teeth, and wait for the rush to pass. They come and go all day, Hueys dropping men into clearings, gunships sweeping low, medevacs lifting bodies away. Each one has its own tone, its own pitch, until you can tell them apart without looking. You lie in your foxhole at night and still hear them. Phantom rotors circling in your head even when the sky above is empty. The sound gets inside you, stays there, until you forget what it was like not to live under blades. But helicopters aren't the only noise. Gunfire punctuates everything. Sometimes it's far away, just a crackle on the horizon, a reminder that someone else is in it. Sometimes it's close, sharp bursts from the tree line, snapping past your ears so fast you don't realise you've ducked until you feel mud on your cheek. The M16 rattles in short bursts, high and sharp, while the heavier thump of an M60 shakes the ground like someone slamming doors in quick succession. The AKs on the other side sound different, deeper, rougher, a noise you learn to recognise instantly. You don't need to see the weapon. You hear it, and you know. Explosions follow, not in neat patterns, but sudden, violent, tearing holes in the air. A claymore mine set off along a trail, a mortar dropping into camp, a charge of C4 clearing a log. The sound rolls through you, makes your chest ache, makes your teeth rattle. Dirt sprays into your face, ears ring so loud you can't tell if someone's shouting or not. You shake your head, blink hard, and the ringing lingers long after the echo fades. Some men never lose it. The noise follows them forever, whistling in their ears, a permanent reminder that the soundtrack didn't stop just because the war did. And then there are the insects, the constant shrill background chorus that never lets up. Mosquitoes whine in your ears, their pitch so high it feels like a needle driving into your skull. Cicadas scream from the trees, a sound so loud it becomes physical, pressing into your eardrums until you think they'll burst. Frogs croak from the puddles, crickets chirp in endless rhythm, and all of it mixes with the thud of boots, the clank of gear, the muttered curses of men too tired to care anymore. The jungle doesn't fall silent at night, it gets louder. Every rustle in the brush sounds like movement. Every crack of a branch makes your heart jolt. You grip your rifle tighter, listen hard, and wonder if it's just another lizard or something else. The camp itself adds its own layers. Diesel engines coughing to life, trucks grinding gears, the clang of shovels against rocks, the metallic ring of hammers on nails as someone builds another useless wall. Radios hiss and crackle, voices spitting static into the humid air. Commanders barking orders that drown beneath the chop of another helicopter overhead. Even laughter, when it comes, is sharp and loud, the kind of laughter that sounds forced, desperate, out of place in the middle of all the other noise. At night, when you try to rest, the soundtrack doesn't stop. The helicopters are still out there, the insects are still screaming, the frogs still croaking, the jungle still whispering with movement you can't see. You hear the muffled snores of men around you, the shift of boots in mud, the occasional cough that cuts through the darkness. And every so often, gunfire cracks in the distance, sharp enough to remind you that sleep is only temporary. You close your eyes, but your ears stay open, waiting, straining, always tuned to the sound of something about to happen. And in those rare moments when everything really does fall quiet, when the helicopters are gone, the insects pause, the camp stills, you don't feel relief. You feel dread. Because silence here isn't safety. Silence here means something's moving that you can't hear yet. Silence means the jungle is holding its breath. And you learn quickly that silence is never your friend. The soundtrack of Vietnam is a mix of machines and nature, of man-made thunder and insect shrieks, of gunfire layered over croaks and buzzes. It's chaotic, endless, and inescapable. You don't live in silence. You live in stereo, a constant clash of sounds that grind into your ears until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And the worst part is, even when you finally leave, the soundtrack follows. You're sweating through your uniform, ears still buzzing from rotors overhead, and the cicadas screaming in your skull, and someone passes you another ration box. There's no break for meals out here, no quiet mess hall, no line with trays and steam rising off real food. Meals come in whatever you can carry, and you eat them wherever you're standing, whether that's in a foxhole, crouched in mud, or leaning against a tree with your rifle in one hand. You tear open the packet with dirty fingers, and the first thing that hits you is the smell of cardboard mixed with stale grease. Inside are the same options you've seen too many times before. Powdered eggs sealed in a foil packet, freeze-dried meat that looks more like a lump of wood than food, a hard chocolate bar wrapped in waxed paper that's already soft and misshapen from the heat. Nothing here is appetizing. It's just calories pressed into shapes, meant to keep you moving. The powdered eggs come first. You rip the packet open, pour the yellow dust into your tin cup, add a splash of lukewarm canteen water, and stir with the end of your spoon until it clumps into a paste. If you're lucky, you get something with the texture of scrambled eggs that have been left sitting out for hours. If you're not, you get lumps of dry powder floating in a swampy pool that tastes faintly of sulphur. You shovel it into your mouth anyway, chewing through grit that sticks to your teeth, swallowing down a flavour that hovers somewhere between chalk and rot. Every bite feels like punishment, and you chase it with water that tastes just as bad. The freeze-dried meat isn't better. Sometimes it's beef, sometimes pork, sometimes something labelled chicken loaf that bears no resemblance to any bird you've ever eaten. You open the pouch and find a solid block, pale and fibrous, the edges crumbling into powder when you press too hard. You take a bite and it resists your teeth like stale bread, then collapses into a stringy mush that clogs your throat. The salt stings your tongue, the texture scrapes your gums, and by the second bite you're already tired of chewing. You swallow hard, feel it stick halfway down, and grab for more water just to push it through. By the end, your jaw aches from the effort, and your stomach feels heavier than before. Then there's the chocolate. The packaging calls it a bar, but what you hold is closer to a melted lump, soft and sticky from the jungle heat. You peel the wrapper back carefully, but it doesn't matter. The chocolate smears across your fingers, glues itself to the paper, melts further the moment you touch it. You shove it into your mouth before it disintegrates completely, and the taste is bitter, dry, almost dusty, as if it's more filler than cocoa. It clings to your teeth, coats your tongue, and turns into a sticky paste that refuses to go away. Still, it's the best thing in the ration pack, and you chew slowly, letting the sweetness fight for a moment against the salt and grease of everything else. By the time it's gone, your mouth feels coated in sugar mud, and your canteen water does nothing to clean it away. Sometimes you get crackers too, the same hard rectangles that never soften. They snap loudly in your teeth, shower crumbs into your lap, and stick to the corners of your mouth. They're dry enough to make you cough, forcing you to sip more water you don't really want to waste. You smear the crackers with whatever canned spread came in the pack. Peanut butter that tastes like paste, cheese spread that smells faintly of gasoline, or jelly so sweet it burns your tongue. None of it helps. The crackers are still dry, still hard, still like chewing cardboard that someone left out in the rain. And all of this you eat with one ear tuned to the jungle. Helicopters thunder overhead, gunfire cracks in the distance, radios hiss with static. Mosquitoes buzz your ears, flies dive for your food, ants crawl across your boots waiting for crumbs. You swat at them between bites, cursing under your breath as they land on the rim of your cup, or wriggle across the packet in your hand. You don't have the luxury of sitting down, setting a plate, keeping things clean. You crouch, lean against a tree, or sit in the mud with your knees drawn up, shoveling food into your mouth before someone tells you to move again. The heat makes it worse. Nothing stays solid for long. The chocolate melts, the meat sweats in its pouch, the powdered eggs clump before you can stir them. Even the cigarettes that come in the ration packs bend in the humidity, their paper soft, their smoke sour. You light one anyway after you finish eating, because the acrid burn in your throat helps cut the taste of powdered egg still sitting there. You cough, spit into the mud, and flick the ash off your knee, watching it drift down into the sweat-soaked ground. The rations never fill you the way you want them to. They sit heavy, yes, but not satisfying. They make your stomach churn, leave you bloated, make you thirsty for water you can't spare. You fantasize about food that isn't canned or powdered, about real eggs on a pan, meat that tears instead of crumbles, chocolate that snaps instead of smears. The thoughts come uninvited, curling through your head as you chew another mouthful of freeze-dried mush. You swallow hard, push the fantasies down, and remind yourself that food out here isn't about taste. It's about not collapsing. When you're done, you stuff the empty packets into your pocket or toss them into the nearest pile of trash waiting to be burned. The wrappers crinkle, the cans clank, and you wipe your greasy fingers on your pants. The taste lingers in your mouth no matter how much water you drink, and you know it'll still be there when you light your next cigarette or when you spit into the mud again. Out here, meals aren't breaks. They're just another chore, another reminder that even something as simple as eating has been turned into another form of work. And before you can even think about rest, someone calls out to move. You shoulder your pack, the last crumbs sticking to your lip, and stand up into the heat. Your stomach churns, your throat is dry, your fingers are sticky with sugar and grease, and the jungle soundtrack hasn't let up for a second. You start walking again, chewing at nothing, wishing the taste would fade, but knowing it won't. Not out here. Not with another ration box waiting for you tomorrow, filled with the same misery in different shapes. The sun drops behind the trees, and the jungle doesn't grow calmer with it, or it changes. The light fades fast, swallowed whole by the thick canopy overhead, until you can't tell where dusk ends and night begins. One moment there's a dull glow slipping through the branches, and the next there's nothing, just blackness pressing in from every direction. You blink, strain, squint into the dark, but your eyes never really adjust. Out here, the night isn't something you see through. It's something that smothers you. You sit low in your foxhole, rifle across your lap, helmet pulled down tight. The air is still heavy, still wet, sweat clinging to your shirt and dripping down your back. But the temperature drops just enough that the damp starts to chill. The mosquitoes don't quit with the sun. If anything, they get worse. They swarm your ears, your hands, your neck, whining in stereo until you swat at them without thinking. You slap your cheek, feel the smear of blood, maybe yours, maybe theirs, and wipe it off on your sleeve. The itch builds as new bites rise along your arms, but you can't do much about it. Your hands stay on the rifle, your eyes stay on the dark. The noises change too. The cicadas fade, replaced by a deeper chorus. Frogs croak from puddles. Crickets chirp in steady rhythm. And something larger crashes through the brush just far enough away that you can't tell what it is. The rain starts not long after, the first drops pattering against the leaves, then building until it's a steady drumming that drowns out everything else. It hammers against the canvas tents, pours down the walls of your foxhole, collects at your boots until the mud softens and sucks at your feet. The water seeps in no matter how many times you bail it out, and soon you're sitting ankle deep in cold, dirty water, your toes wrinkling, your socks slimy against your skin. Every drop is another sound layered onto the night, and the trick is separating what matters from what doesn't. A branch snaps somewhere off to your left. Could be a monkey, could be a rat, could be something else entirely. Your stomach knots, your hand tightens on the rifle, your breath slows as you lean forward, straining to hear more. Then the rain grows heavier, masking everything, and you're left with nothing but your own heartbeat thudding in your ears. You ease back slowly, but the tension stays. It never really goes away. Sleep isn't part of the night, not the way you remember it. You might nod off in bursts, head bobbing against the rim of your helmet, eyes closing for seconds at a time, but you never fall deep. The rain wakes you, the bugs wake you, the man next to you shifting in his hole wakes you, and even when your body tries to drag you down into real rest, your brain jerks you back up at the faintest sound, a cough, a crack, a breath that doesn't belong. You tell yourself you'll get used to it, but you don't. Night is always too loud and too quiet at the same time, and it keeps you wired long after your muscles have given up. The rain soaks everything. Your shirt clings to you, colder now than it was in the day. Your blanket is useless, wet before you even pull it over your shoulders. Your rifle grows slick, water running down the stock, dripping from the barrel, pooling in the chamber until you tilt it to shake it out. You wipe it with the edge of your sleeve, but the fabric is just as wet. You hold it anyway, because you know you'll need it. The mud doesn't just crawl up your boots anymore. It creeps into your foxhole, fills the bottom, until you're squatting instead of sitting. your thighs burning as you try to keep your legs out of the worst of it. The smell rises with it, the stink of wet earth mixed with sweat and mildew, filling your nose until it's all you can taste. Some nights the mortars come, a distant thump in the dark, followed by a shriek overhead, and the crash of dirt exploding into the air. You drop low, press your face into the mud, and wait for the next. The blasts come in waves, each one closer or farther, each one shaking your chest like a fist. The rain keeps falling through it all, mixing with the dirt raining down on your helmet, streaking your face with grit and water. You wipe it away blindly, ears ringing, heart pounding, and then wait for silence. When it comes, it's not relief. It's just another kind of waiting. Even without mortars, the night can turn fast. A flare goes up suddenly, hissing into the sky, bursting into bright white light that floods the jungle like daylight. You blink against it, eyes watering, shadows jumping wild against the trees. Every branch looks like movement, every trunk like a man standing still. Then the flare fizzles, fades, and you're blind again, the darkness twice as thick as before. You blink, rub your eyes and curse under your breath. You're back where you started, only now your vision is worse. The fear isn't constant, but it's steady. A low hum in the back of your skull that rises with every sound you can't explain. You lean forward in your hole, listening to the frogs, the crickets, the water dripping from leaves, and wonder which sound is real and which is wrong. You wonder how close someone could get in all this noise, how long you'd sit before you noticed. You tell yourself you'd hear it, that you'd know, but the truth is you don't. The truth is the jungle hides what it wants, when it wants, and you're left sitting in the dark, pretending your nerves are sharp enough to catch what your eyes can't see. Sometimes you whisper to the man in the next hole, just to break the tension. A word, a curse, a joke about rain. He mutters back, voice low, tired, half asleep, but still awake because he has to be. The exchange doesn't make you feel safer. It just reminds you you're not the only one losing your mind in the dark. You shift your weight, rifle still across your lap, helmet sliding forward on your head, and watch the black nothing stretch out in front of you. The night doesn't end quickly. It drags, minute by minute, hour by hour, until your legs are numb and your eyes burn and you've scratched yourself raw from mosquito bites you can't stop. By the time the sky starts to lighten, you're not rested. You're not refreshed. You're damp, sore, and heavier in the head than when the night began. The rain slows, the frogs fade, the cicadas start again, and the jungle shifts back into daylight. You blink against it, rub the mud from your face, and force yourself upright. Another night survived, though survived doesn't mean rested. It just means you're still here, still tired, still dragging your body into another day. Because in Vietnam, the dark doesn't give you rest. It gives you hours to sit in a hole, listening to every noise, and wondering if this one is the one you shouldn't ignore. The morning doesn't wait for you to rest. You drag yourself out of the foxhole, your clothes sticking to your skin, your eyes swollen from the damp and the insects. Your body aches in ways you've stopped naming, and it's only when you try to stand upright that you realise something worse has started brewing. Out here, the enemy isn't just bullets and mines, it's sickness. The jungle crawls with it, swarms with it, carries it in every drop of water, every bite, every breath. And once it gets inside you, it doesn't let go easily. Malaria is the name you hear most often, muttered in warnings, grumbled in curses, spat out in frustration. The mosquitoes that whine around your ears at night don't just leave welts. They carry fever, shaking chills, sweats that leave you shivering in air that's already hotter than you can stand. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. A dull ache behind your eyes. A shiver when everyone else is sweating. A fever that rises fast, pounding through your skull until you feel like your brain is boiling. You see men curled on their cots, trembling so hard the whole canvas shakes, sweat pouring off them like they're being wrung out. Their teeth chatter, their hands shake, their skin burns, and their eyes glaze with a fever that doesn't break easily. Quinine pills are passed out, bitter chalk tablets you choke down day after day, but even those don't stop it every time. You take them because you're told to, because the alternative is worse. But in the back of your mind, you know, out here, the mosquitoes always find a way. Dysentery is quieter, but just as cruel. It starts with the water, the food, the hands you can't ever keep clean. One bad swallow, one sip from a stream without enough tablets, and your gut turns against you. The cramps come first, twisting your stomach until you double over, clutching at yourself while sweat drips from your chin. Then comes the rush to the latrine, if there is one, or to the nearest patch of mud when you can't wait. You squat, stomach heaving, body emptying itself faster than you can drink to replace it. The smell is overwhelming, sour and sharp, clinging to your clothes, your skin, the air itself. You wipe with whatever's at hand, paper if you're lucky, leaves if you're not, and shuffle back to camp weaker than before. By nightfall, you're too weak to stand, your lips cracked, your tongue swollen, your body shaking not from fever, but from the sheer loss of everything inside you. The corpseman gives you salt tablets, tells you to drink, shakes his head when you ask for more. There's only so much he can do with what little he has. Infections are everywhere. A scratch from barbed wire, a blister from boots, a leech bite you didn't clean well enough. They all fester. The heat, the damp, the filth of the jungle turns small wounds into oozing sores, red and angry, the skin hot to the touch. You see men limping, their ankles swollen, their arms wrapped in dirty bandages that soak through within hours. The corpseman unwraps them, shakes his head, smears on iodine that burns like fire, then re-wraps them with whatever cloth he has left. Supplies run thin quickly. Clean gauze is rationed. Antibiotics are saved for the worst cases. Most of the time, you get a smear of ointment and a slap on the shoulder, a muttered, "keep it clean," in a place where nothing ever stays clean. Malaria and dysentery aren't the only sicknesses. Jungle rot eats at your feet until the skin peels away, leaving raw flesh open to more infection. Heat rash spreads across your chest and back, itching until you tear your skin raw with your nails. Ringworm carves circles into your arms, your neck, your scalp, the fungus thriving in the damp. Some men cough constantly, hacking up phlegm thick with blood, their lungs clogged from weeks of breathing smoke and spores. Others lie flat, eyes half shut, skin pale, their bodies wasting away from fevers no one can name. Out here, sickness isn't an exception. It's routine. The medics, the corpsmen, the doctors, if you're lucky enough to be near a real aid station, do what they can, but what they can do is never enough. They work out of tents that smell of sweat and alcohol, lit by flickering lamps, their tables stacked with bottles of pills and rolls of bandages that never last long. They cut away boots from swollen feet, scrape dead flesh from wounds, jab needles into arms that are too thin, too shaky, too dehydrated Their hands are steady, their voices tired, their faces lined deeper every day. They move fast because there are always more men waiting, always another fever, another wound, another stomach clenched in pain. You sit on a cot, your stomach twisted, your head burning, and the courtman looks at you with eyes that have already seen 100 men like you this week. He digs through his kit, finds a packet of tablets, presses them into your hand. Take these, drink water, try to rest. You swallow them down, choke against the chalk, and lie back on a pillow that smells like every man who's used it before. The fever doesn't break right away. The cramps don't fade. The sweat still pours down your face, into your ears, soaking the cot beneath you. You close your eyes, but there's no comfort. Just the knowledge that you're one of dozens waiting in line, and the corpsman can only do so much. The worst is when supplies run low, when the bandages run out, and men wrap their wounds with strips of torn shirts. When the morphine is gone, and the wounded bite down on belts while shrapnel is pulled from their flesh. When the quinine runs dry, and men shake themselves into unconsciousness with nothing to stop it. You hear the corpsman cursing under his breath, tossing empty bottles into a pile, shaking his head as another fever burns through the tent. He does what he can, but what he can is never enough. Not here. Not with this many bodies breaking down all at once. You start to fear sickness more than bullets. Bullets are quick, sudden, violent. Sickness drags you out, stretches you thin, breaks you down slowly while the jungle hums around you. You can't fight it with a rifle. You can't dig it out with a shovel. You can't cut it away with a machete. You just endure, sweating and shaking, hoping the tablets work, hoping the fever breaks, hoping the corpsman doesn't shake his head when he looks you over. And the jungle doesn't stop for you. The work keeps going. Roads still need clearing, trenches still need digging, obstacles still need cutting. You drag yourself out of the tent, body weak, head heavy, stomach twisting, and pick up your gear again. You cough, you wipe the sweat from your eyes, you stumble in the mud, and you keep moving. Because there's no pause button for sickness here. It's just another layer of misery on top of everything else. Another reminder that out here, the jungle isn't just trying to kill you with bullets and traps. It's trying to rot you from the inside out. The jungle doesn't give you a break. It's not just the insects, not just the mud, not just the sickness that festers in every cut. The climate itself is its own enemy, and it fights you all day, every day, without pause. The sun comes up, and you feel the heat roll over you like a wall. And just when you think you can't take it anymore, night comes and the cold slides in, cutting through your damp clothes until your teeth chatter. The cycle repeats again and again until your body doesn't know what to expect anymore. By day, the heat presses on you like a weight. It's not the kind of heat you shake off with shade or a breeze. It's the kind that wraps around you, clings to your skin, seeps into your lungs. The air is wet, heavy, thick with humidity that makes every breath feel like work. Your shirt soaks through within minutes of stepping outside, sweat running down your chest, dripping into your eyes, pooling in your boots. You wipe your forehead with a sleeve, but the sleeve is already wet, and all you manage is to smear sweat and mud across your face. Your gear makes it worse. The helmet traps the heat. The flak vest turns your chest into an oven. The straps dig into your shoulders until they burn. Every step feels like wading through a furnace, and every swing of the shovel or machete feels like it's pulling your muscles apart. You stop for water, unscrew the canteen, and take a long drink. But the water is as hot as the air, tasting of chlorine and metal, leaving your throat dry again seconds later. You pour some over your head, let it run down your back, and for a moment there's relief. But only for a moment. The heat swallows it whole, and soon you're drenched again, only this time with more sweat. You start to feel it in your body, the slow drag of exhaustion that comes from being baked alive. Your arms grow heavy, your vision blurs, your head pounds with a steady throb that matches your heartbeat. The sweat doesn't cool you anymore. It just drains you, carrying out what little energy you had left. You take another sip from the canteen, but you're rationing now because the supply won't last forever. The sun climbs higher, the cicadas scream louder, and the heat grinds you down until your legs feel like sandbags and your chest feels hollow. And then night comes, and the punishment changes. The sun slips away, the canopy swallows the last light, and the air shifts from heavy to sharp. The damp that clung to you all day turns cold, soaking into your bones. Your shirt is still wet, your pants still slick with sweat and mud, and now the chill slides into them, leaving you shivering in clothes that never dry. You crouch in your foxhole, arms wrapped around your rifle, and your body trembles as if you're standing in snow. Your teeth chatter loud enough that you bite down to stop the noise, afraid it'll carry farther than you want. The cold isn't absolute, not the way winters are back home. But out here, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't hit you with ice or frost. It seeps in through the damp, through the mud, through the layers of wet fabric plastered to your skin. It catches you off guard, because you spent all day drowning in heat, and now you're wrung out, empty, too weak to fight off the chill. Your fingers grow stiff, your hands ache, your breath fogs faintly in front of you. You try to shift, to rub your arms, to move enough to stay warm, but movement is loud, and the jungle is too dark for mistakes. So you sit, shivering in silence, letting the cold grind into your body until it's as unbearable as the heat was hours ago. The rain makes it worse. In the day, it falls heavy and warm, soaking you but blending into the sweat until you barely notice. At night, it's cold, steady, relentless, hammering down until the bottom of your foxhole fills with water, until you're crouched ankle deep in muddy pools, until your clothes cling like icy rags. You scoop water out with your helmet, bail as much as you can, but it keeps coming, dripping down your helmet, sliding down your neck, running into your sleeves. You sit soaked, shivering, listening to the rain drown out everything else, and you wonder how much more your body can take. The cycle breaks you. One moment you're cooked alive, the next you're frozen in wet clothes. Your body never adjusts, never gets used to it. You go to sleep drenched in sweat, wake up shivering in cold, drag yourself through the heat until you're dizzy, and repeat it all again the next day. Your skin suffers first. Heat rash spreads across your chest and back, angry red welts that itch until you scratch them raw. At night, the damp keeps the welts from healing, turning them into open sores that sting with every move. Your feet swell, your hands blister, your face cracks from the constant cycle of baking and soaking. You hear the men around you mutter curses about it, groaning in the sun, teeth chattering in the dark. Some strip their shirts in the heat, only to get eaten alive by mosquitoes. Some bundle themselves in blankets at night, only to wake soaked through When the rain cuts through the canvas, there's no winning, no balance. The climate takes what it wants, and you endure it because there's no choice. You don't get to bargain with the sun. You don't get to argue with the rain. You just take it 1 hour at a time until the day blurs into the night and the night blurs into another day. And even when you think you've adjusted, when you tell yourself you've learned to deal with it, the climate finds a new way to break you. A sudden downpour in the middle of the day, turning the trail into a swamp. A night that's colder than usual, leaving your fingers numb and useless. A week of heat so oppressive, you see men collapse in the mud, their bodies giving out before their will does. The air itself is against you, and you start to wonder if that was the plan all along, that the jungle was designed not just to hide the enemy, but to wear you down one drop of sweat, one shiver at a time. The jungle breaks you with heat and rain, but it isn't empty. Villages sit tucked between the trees, rice paddies spread across lowlands, huts built from wood and thatch, standing quiet until your squad comes near. And every time you step close to where people live, you feel a different kind of weight settle on your shoulders. Not the weight of gear or mud, but the weight of not knowing who to trust. The first thing you notice is the eyes. Children watching from doorways, women standing by cooking fires, men leaning on tools in the fields. Their faces don't show much, no broad smiles, no open anger, just the kind of guarded look that makes you wonder what they're thinking. They glance at your rifle, your helmet, the sweat running down your face, and then they look away. You can't tell if they're relieved you're there, or if they're waiting for you to leave. Language is the first wall. A handful of phrases in Vietnamese are passed around your squad. Hello, thank you, where, danger, but they're clumsy on your tongue, mispronounced, and often met with blank stares or nervous laughter. Sometimes a village elder speaks a little English, taught long ago by someone else in uniform. He steps forward, nods, gestures with his hands, and you do your best to follow. You point to the ground, to the tools on your back, to the road you're supposed to clear. And he nods again, though you're never sure if you've been understood. More often than not, communication comes down to pointing, waving, grunting, and hoping your meaning crosses the gap. Suspicion fills in the silence between words. You've been told that the Viet Cong don't wear uniforms, that they blend into the villages, that the same man handing you a bundle of bananas might have strung a wire across your trail the night before. You've seen it happen. A friendly wave one day, a booby trap found outside the same village the next. The line between friend and foe isn't just thin, it's invisible. And that means you can never lower your guard. You stand in the middle of a village, the smell of cooking rice mixing with the stink of animals and mud, and you keep your rifle close, even when a child runs past laughing. You glance at the women pounding grain, at the men carrying baskets, at the dogs nosing through trash. You wonder who's watching you for more than curiosity. You wonder which hut hides a rifle, which smiling face hides a grudge. You wonder how many of the kids you wave back to today will be planting traps on the trail tomorrow. And yet, the human side cuts through. A woman hands you a jug of water, her face expressionless. But the water cools your throat in a way your canteen never could. A child tugs at your sleeve, pointing at the chocolate bar melting in your pocket, and you break it in half, hand it over, and watch him grin with a mouthful of sugar. For a moment the suspicion lifts, and you're just a man giving a child a piece of candy. Then your sergeant clears his throat, and the weight settles again. You remind yourself not to get too close, not to trust too easily. Engineers are sent to build and repair, and sometimes that means helping the villages themselves. You drive stakes for a bridge, patch a road that runs between huts, lay sandbags near a well. The locals gather around, some watching silently, others lending a hand. You work side by side, sweat dripping from both your brows, shovels clanking in the same rhythm. You exchange nods, gestures, maybe a few broken words, and for a while it feels like the line doesn't exist. But when the job is done, when you sling your rifle back onto your shoulder, the looks change again. Guarded, measured, suspicious. Like they have remembered something you're not allowed to forget. You hear stories in camp. Men invited into huts, fed bowls of rice, only to find themselves ambushed the next day. Villages that seem quiet until the sun goes down, when muzzle flashes erupt from the trees behind them. Kids carrying baskets that hide explosives. Women who smile politely while counting how many rifles pass through. The stories sink into your bones, make you grip your weapon tighter, make you scan every face twice. And once you've heard enough of them, you stop believing in coincidences. It eats at you, the not knowing. You don't want to see enemies in everyone. You don't want to flinch when a farmer raises a hand in greeting. But the line is blurred until it disappears, and you can't afford to be wrong. You nod. You smile if you have the energy. You share a piece of your ration if a child reaches out. But you never stop watching. You never stop wondering. Because out here, every village could be both. A place where someone feeds you, and a place where someone buries a mine in the road you're clearing. By night, when you sit back in your foxhole, the faces linger in your head. The old man with the worn hat who nodded, but never spoke. The woman who filled your canteen without meeting your eyes. The child who grinned with chocolate on his teeth. You try to decide what they meant, what they were hiding, what you didn't see. But the answers don't come, and you're left with the same questions waiting for you tomorrow. The locals live here. You don't. They know the trails, the rivers, the hidden paths through the brush. They know where the water is safe and where it isn't. They know the ground like you know the streets back home. And that knowledge cuts both ways. Sometimes it helps you when someone points toward a safe crossing, when someone warns of a bad stretch ahead. Other times it's turned against you, when a trail is left open just long enough to lure you in, when a smile masks a trap set hours before. You don't control the line, they do, and you just walk it, hoping you don't fall to the wrong side. The jungle wears on your body first. The sweat, the bugs, the sickness, the endless mud under your boots. But once your body learns to keep moving, even when it shouldn't, the war starts working on your head. It's quieter, slower, but it's just as relentless. Morale isn't something you get handed. It's something you scrape together from whatever scraps are left, hoping it'll be enough to keep you standing another day. Letters are the only real lifeline. They come in bundles, stuffed into canvas bags, carried in by trucks or helicopters. And the whole camp shifts the moment they arrive. Men who've been bent double in the mud, who haven't cracked a smile in days, straighten up and line up quick, hands outstretched, waiting for their name to be called. You hear them read aloud sometimes, lips moving silently. eyes scanning over every word as if each letter might fade if they don't take it in fast enough. When you get one, you tear it open with dirty fingers, the paper already damp from the air. The ink is smudged, the folds worn soft, the smell faintly carrying something from home. Perfume, soap, maybe just the must of a drawer far away. You read slowly, carefully, dragging it out, letting every word anchor you to a place that feels like a dream now. A wife's handwriting, a mother's careful script, a friend's messy scrawl. They talk about things so ordinary it almost hurts. The dog barking at the mailman, the neighbour painting his fence, the weather back home turning cold. You clutch the page tighter than your rifle because, for a few minutes, it's proof the world you left still exists. But letters cut both ways. Some never arrive at all, lost somewhere between bases. Some arrive late, weeks old, talking about events that have already passed, about birthdays you missed, funerals you weren't there for. Some say too much. A girlfriend who writes less and less, until one day she doesn't write at all. A wife who tries to be kind, but can't hide that things are falling apart at home. A father who signs his name stiffly, words short, as if he doesn't know what to say anymore. You fold the letter, shove it into your pocket, but the words stick like barbs in your head. You go back to work with them chewing at the edge of your thoughts, sharper than the edge of your shovel. When there aren't letters, when the bags come empty or the names don't include yours, the silence is worse. You watch other men smile, laugh, clutching envelopes, and you look down at your empty hands. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that maybe next time, but the space where a letter should be feels heavier than your pack. You lie in your foxhole at night, staring at the dark, wondering if you've been forgotten, if the world has moved on without you, if you'll come home to nothing but silence. Exhaustion fills the gaps. Every task, every march, every night spent crouched in the mud builds into a weight you carry behind your eyes. You can push your body past hunger, past thirst, past the aches in your knees and shoulders. But the exhaustion digs deeper. It makes your thoughts slow, makes your temper short, makes your grip on reality thin. You find yourself staring at the same patch of dirt for too long, zoning out until someone snaps at you. You blink, shake your head, and force yourself back. But the fog never really lifts. Sleep doesn't cure it, not here. You doze in bursts, head nodding against your helmet, waking at every sound, every shift in the jungle. When you do sleep deep, the dreams come sharp. Firefights replaying, explosions you've heard before, faces you don't want to see again. You wake with your heart pounding, your shirt soaked, your rifle clutched in your hands even though you don't remember grabbing it. You rub your eyes, shake your head, and tell yourself it was just a dream. But it never feels like just a dream. It feels like the war bleeding into your head, taking over even the few hours you're supposed to rest. The mind games come from inside and outside. Inside, it's the constant question of how much more you can take before something cracks. Outside, it's the endless routine of waiting. Waiting for orders. Waiting for supplies. Waiting in the heat. Waiting in the rain. Waiting for something to happen, even when you know that something will be worse than the waiting itself. The war turns time into a kind of torture, dragging it out until you feel stretched thin, counting hours that blur into days, counting days that don't feel real anymore. You hear men mutter about home, about food, about cars, about women. They talk in circles, telling the same stories, describing the same memories, trying to hold on to them before they fade. You join in sometimes, even if you don't want to, because silence feels heavier than words. But you also notice the way some men stop talking altogether. They sit quiet, staring at the ground, eyes unfocused. They answer short or not at all. Their letters stopped coming, or they never came at all, and the silence hollowed them out. You look at them and wonder if you'll end up the same, if one day you'll stop talking too, just waiting for the next order, without bothering to fill the space in between. Small things keep you going when the letters and the talk aren't enough. A cigarette at the end of a shift, the smoke curling out of your lungs in slow relief. A deck of cards shuffled in the mud, hands smacking down hard enough to splash dirt across the faces. A photo folded into your wallet, ages worn, face is fading, but still there. You look at it when you can't sleep, when the rain drowns everything, when the noise won't stop, and you tell yourself you'll get back there, even if you're not sure you believe it. But no trick lasts long. The exhaustion seeps back, the silence weighs heavy, the doubts creep in. You grip your rifle, shift your shoulders under the straps, and keep moving, one foot in front of the other. Because the war doesn't stop just because your morale is low. The jungle doesn't care if you're tired. The road doesn't clear itself just because you want to quit. You keep going, because stopping isn't an option. And so morale becomes less about hope and more about endurance. Less about feeling good and more about not breaking. You don't fight to stay cheerful. You fight to stay functional. You fight to hold your head above the mud, even if it's just barely, even if it's only until tomorrow. You fight the quiet battles, against silence, against exhaustion, against your own thoughts. Because if you lose those, you don't need a bullet or a mine to finish the job. The war will have already taken you. The orders come down, and one day you're told your time is up. Maybe it's rotation, maybe it's paperwork finally catching up, maybe it's just luck. However it happens, you leave the jungle the same way you came in, carrying more than you can explain. The sweat, the mud, the sickness, the fear, all of it clings to you like a second skin. You board a helicopter, the blades hammering the air, and lift out over the treetops. For the first time in months, maybe years, you look down at the jungle shrinking beneath you. It should feel like escape. It doesn't. It feels like leaving part of yourself behind in the mud and knowing it won't let you go. When you get home, the air is different. It's lighter, drier, easier to breathe. The heat isn't wet. The nights aren't filled with frogs and insects screaming in your ears. For a moment, your body remembers what it's like not to be wrapped in misery every second. But your head doesn't. The war doesn't stay in Vietnam. It comes back with you, packed in your gear, carried in your bones, lodged in the back of your skull where no one else can see it. The scars aren't always on your skin. The burns heal. The blisters fade. The cuts close. What doesn't fade are the noises, the flashes, the weight of every day you spent waiting for the wrong sound in the dark. You lie in a bed that's soft for the first time in years, and you don't sleep. You close your eyes and the jungle fills back in. You hear the rotors overhead, the crack of gunfire in the trees, the buzzing of mosquitoes circling your ears. You open your eyes, and the ceiling above you feels too clean, too close, too quiet. You shift, restless, waiting for a sound that isn't coming, waiting for something you can't name. People ask questions when you get home. They want stories. They want to know what it was like. You start to answer, then stop. Because how do you explain it? How do you explain the way the mud sucked at your boots until you thought you'd sink whole? How do you explain the way your body itched constantly, never clean, never dry? How do you explain sitting in a hole at night, listening to every noise, wondering if this was the one that mattered? You can't. So you shrug, you say it was fine, you say you got through it, you change the subject. You don't tell them the truth, because the truth doesn't fit into the space they've given you. The war follows you into the smallest things. A loud bang on the street makes you flinch before you even know it. A helicopter passes overhead, and your chest tightens, your stomach knots. Your hand twitches for a rifle that isn't there. The smell of damp earth after rain takes you straight back to the foxhole, sitting ankle deep in mud while your teeth chatter. A sick stomach from bad food reminds you of dysentery, crouched in the brush with your body emptying itself. You can't walk past a ditch without glancing into it, without wondering if something's buried there. You can't hear crickets at night without lying awake, eyes open, waiting. It wears on you, the way the war seeps into everything. You want to forget, but forgetting isn't an option. The war carved itself into your habits, into the way you breathe, into the way you sleep. You double-check doors, you scan crowds, you keep your back to walls. You wake at noises no one else notices. You carry the weight in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the tension that never eases. And you can't explain to anyone why you can't let it go, because the war doesn't let go of you. Some men drink to quiet it. Some gamble. Some sit in silence, staring at walls, smoking one cigarette after another until their hands shake. Some try to go back to normal, to jobs, to families, to the lives they left behind. But normal doesn't fit anymore. The jungle changed the shape of everything, and nothing back home fits the way it used to. You try to slip back into it, and the seams tear. Letters don't arrive anymore, but the habit doesn't fade. You check the mailbox, you wait for news, you half expect another bag to be dropped into camp. When nothing comes, you remind yourself you're not there anymore. But the routine lingers. You keep waiting anyway, waiting for something, waiting for the part of you that's still out there to catch up. And the hardest part is that no one sees the battle you're still fighting. They see the uniform, the medals, the discharge papers. They see you home. They don't see the foxhole you're still sitting in, the mud you're still sinking into, the heat you're still choking on. They don't see the war that runs on loop in your head, playing itself over and over every time you close your eyes, every time a sound hits just wrong, every time silence stretches too long. You tell yourself you survived. You tell yourself you made it home. But surviving isn't the same as leaving it behind. The scars don't show, but they're deeper than the ones that do. The jungle doesn't fade. The sounds don't stop. The fear doesn't disappear. The war follows you into your sleep, into your streets, into the years that stretch out in front of you, long after the last shot was fired. And that's the longest battle, the one where there are no trenches to dig, no wires to cut, no mines to find. Just the fight to carry the weight without letting it crush you. The fight to keep walking with the jungle still clinging to your boots, even when you're thousands of miles away. The fight to live with scars no one else can see. You've seen the jungle. You've felt the heat, the mud, the sickness, the fear that never left when the sun went down. You've carried the tools, cut the wires, dug the holes. sat awake through the noise, and eaten the rations that barely kept you standing. You've lived a long cycle of sweating through the day and shivering through the night, of waiting for letters that might not come, of holding your breath at every sound that might mean the wrong thing. And when it was over, when the orders pulled you out, you carried it all with you. The mud stuck to your boots long after you left the jungle. The sounds followed you into quiet rooms. The weight settled in your shoulders, your chest, your sleep, until you realised the war wasn't something you left behind. It was something that came home with you. That's what being a combat engineer in Vietnam meant. It wasn't just roads and bridges. It wasn't just traps and mines. It was the whole grind, the bugs, the water, the sickness, the heat, the locals, the waiting, the doubt, the fear, the letters, the scars. A war you fought in the jungle, and then a war you kept fighting in your own head. And so you keep walking, the sound of helicopters still in your ears, the weight of tools still on your shoulders, the memory of mud still pulling at your feet. The war ends on paper, but the longest part of it keeps going.